Welcome back then to the third part of this set of videos looking at actually putting a game together in Pico-8. Those of you who've been following so far will know that we've put together a spacecraft that moves left and right across the screen with some nice sort of inertia effects, and the graphics change slightly, and we've also put a star field that scrolls vertically down the screen behind the spacecraft to give us an illusion of moving up the screen. And last time round we decided that what we'd look at was shooting and producing bullets, and I mentioned that in order to do that I was going to need to start dealing with some objects, and indeed that's what we might as well have a look at today. So if we go into our code, we can see at the moment, because I've been messing around just sort of setting things up, everything at the moment is just sitting in one tab and it's all starting to get quite big. But that's not a big problem because, again, as I say, we'll probably extract a lot of this code out and put it into a proper program when we come to do it, and just paste between the two versions of Pico-8. But for the time being, let's have a look at some objects. Now I am going to create a new tab here, and if you put a comment at the very top, something like this, objects, then what that does is it means if you're on a different tab and you hover over, it actually gives you information about the tab that you're about to hover over. So this one, you can see, doesn't give me anything. But this one says objects, and that's because I've got this comment at the top. Now the way that an object works, or the way that I make objects work, sorry, is I use a table. Because a table is a very useful construction in Pico-8. You can add things to a table, and it's really just what you would call an array in another programming language. And I've done a whole video on this in at an earlier time. If you have a look through my channel, you'll see that there's a video exactly on this, so I won't spend too much time talking about the ins and outs of it, but the upshot is that I'm going to need a table. So one of the first things I'm going to need to make sure I do is actually declare that I have a table in existence. So I'm going to write a little function which I'm going to call init objects, and this is just going to initialize any objects I have. I have a feeling I will probably have more than one object. Okay, so this is going to declare objects, and it's mainly because they're tables and I'm going to be adding things to these tables. You need to initialize them. You need to have a table that's empty for things to be added into, otherwise Pico-8 says, well, what are you trying to add to this table? There isn't a table that exists, so we don't want that. So let's go for bullets. Okay, so bullets is the table, and we just tell it it's an empty table. Okay, now as you know, if you want to add something to a table, you can add to a particular table like bullets, and then you could add something to it. Okay, so there I've added the number 1 to a table called bullets, and if I did this lots of times I could add all sorts of different things. I could add the word hello to a table called bullets. Okay, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a whole stream of things, okay, which means I've got to add a table to a table called bullets, and inside my table I'm going to have all sorts of different things. So I'm going to have, for example, an X location or a Y location or anything else like this. So if you think about what my bullet's going to need, it's going to need an X location and a Y location. Okay. It's probably going to need some speed. I imagine my bullet's going to move up the screen. Okay, so that's going to be a speed in the X direction, and it might be later in the game that I have bullets that move left and right as well. So let's give it a Y speed as well. That's often a useful way of doing these sort of things. When I fire a bullet, Pico-8 will keep track of it forever, and it'll go off the screen and keep going, and it could be 20,000 pixels away and Pico-8 is still trying to work it out, but at some point it'll go beyond the level that Pico-8 can count, which off the top of my head I think is 32,000 or so. So I want it not to do that. So let's have a life. Life. How long is it going to actually live for? How long will it keep running? Okay. And what else will I need? Let's start with that. Okay. Let's start with that. So those are the values it's going to need. Okay. Now I've got to make sure I put some commas after these, and I'm going to put some values in as well. Now what's really important about objects, what's very clever about them, okay, is that I can actually set up another variable called draw. But draw is not going to be a variable like 3 or 4 or 7 or something like that. It's actually going to be a function, and it's a function that actually acts on itself. Okay, and because it's a function, it can do all sorts of different bits and bobs. Okay, and I end the function, and in here it's going to do some particular things. So for example, this takes care of how the bullet appears on screen. So let's, for example, just make the bullet a circle. Okay, so it's going to circ fill, and what's it going to circ fill? It's going to circ fill it at x, y. So I have to refer here to the fact that it's the self. Okay, so it's its own x and its own y. And then also I have to make sure, because this is circ fill, I have to give it a radius and a color. So maybe the radius I'm going to say is 2, and the color for the time being, if I just go up to my colors up here, maybe I'm going to have my bullet in a bright green, which is 11. Okay, remember the color appears down there, so color 11. Okay, so that's all it actually has to do, to draw, comma, and also it needs an update. Okay, and that equals function self. Okay, and this is going to update the bullet. Okay, so x plus equals dx. I'll need some self in there. Self x, self dot. Okay, it's going to have self dot y plus equals self dot dy. So in other words, it's going to move its x by dx, its y by dy. I got to make sure that the lifespan is increased, so, or decreased. If we have a life to begin with, let's say the bullet's life is going to be 20. Okay. So what we're going to do is say self.life minus equals 1. Okay, and then we need to obviously ask the question, if self.life is less than 0, then, okay, and this is quite interesting at this point, because what we need to do is we just need to check if it's got too small, and if it has, then we just need to delete from bullets self. Okay, so we just need to delete it, and that bullet will disappear from the table, and it won't be counted anymore. Okay, so for the time being, that's the end. Now you can see here I've called these functions draw and update. That's useful because it chimes with what they're actually doing, and it's quite possible for your object to have loads of other functions built into it as well that you could run at some stage. Now all of this sitting here, you'll see x, y, dx, dy, I haven't actually set yet. And this is where the snazzy bit of the whole thing comes in, okay? Because what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create a function. So I'm going to take the whole of this and I'm going to wrap it in a function. So my function is going to be function add new bullet, okay? And I'm going to pass add new bullet x, y, dx, dy, okay? And so what I'm doing is I'm adding, I'm creating a function which has these variables here. I've put these little underscores in front to show that they're just local to this particular one. And I'm going to add these bullets, okay, and that's the end of the function. So I can call this function, and then what this function does is it adds a new bullet wherever I put these particular variables. Okay, so as soon as I call the function add new bullet, I give it x, y as speed, and the x as speed, and the y, and it creates a bullet that will live for a life of 20, that has a radius of 2, a color of 11. You can see we're going to edit this at some point, aren't we? To also put life in the bit up here, maybe the radius, maybe the color. Having all of those together will mean that the entire program, or the entire function, sorry, is malleable and able to be used for all sorts of different areas. Okay, so there is my add new bullet function. So let's go into our update and actually use it. So where's it going to happen? Well, we might as well stick it down here. We might as well say fire bullet. Okay. And all we need to do is just say add new bullet. Where are we going to add it from? Right, well, to start with, we could just use the player X and player Y values. Okay, px, py. What about the speed? Right, well, the dx, that's the speed in the x direction. I don't need any at the moment. Speed in the y direction, moving up the screen. So if it's going up the screen, it's negative. Let's give it a speed of -3. Okay, and that should add a new bullet. Okay, but obviously the bullet needs to be drawn. So in here, we have to go draw bullet. And so to do this, what we do is we go through the table of bullets. So we say for B, which is just a made-up variable, in all bullets, do, and obviously end it, as we always would with those sort of things. And what are we going to do? Well, we're going to call the draw function of every single bullet. So for B in all bullets, do b.draw, or b:draw, sorry, which will call this function here. It'll make b:draw is this variable is this function, so it will make this function run, which is that it will draw a circle at xy with a radius of 2 and a color of 11. Okay, and so you can see quite easily if I copy this that in our update function down here, we want to draw the bullet. So for B in all bullets, this will be B update. Okay, so that was a lot of code, and as I say, I'm doing this live because this is what it's like actually programming a game. So we will now try and run this. You see, there you go. These sort of things always crop up. Unclosed. So this is in here. I have opened the table, so I've got to close it now. I've got to get this right. If end update end. So I think it's here. I think it's, tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it at the end there. That's the add is end, and then the function is end. So I'm pretty sure it's there. Don't like it there, it does look rubbish. Let's go for this. Unclosed brackets now, so it still doesn't quite like it. Somewhere something isn't quite right. Update function. So add new bullet, add, right, here we go. Yep, so after we've closed the table, we had to close the brackets on the add function. Still doesn't like it. Expected near end, so this tells us that we haven't quite, oh, that's there, we haven't quite counted up the correct number of ends. So we've got an, let's start at the beginning, function end, add end. Oh no, we don't need an end after add, do we? Add should just have brackets. Hurrah! We are in. Okay, so we can move left and right. Now I'm pressing Z, but I don't seem to be getting any bullets appearing. Now I would expect to be getting something coming through there. Self X, it should be drawing a circle. It should be updating itself. X should be moving. The life should be going less than 1. Life has been set to 20 when we add it. Let's have a look in here. Which bit's not working then? So in update, for B in all bullets do B update. That looks okay. And draw bullet for B in all bullets. Oh, hang on. We got bullets, and yeah. For B in all bullets, B draw. So that also should be okay. So if we have another look in here, this is definitely called draw, so there's no mistake there, and it's drawing a circle. And this is definitely called update. and we've got nothing there, so that's looking okay as well. So that should be working. Why is it not? There must be something. Tell you what I'm going to do. This is, again, when you're trying to debug these sort of things, you've got to sort of run through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to print just a word. Whoops. I'm going to print a bullet, some text up at the top of the screen. Have I got that syntax wrong? Do I have to say print at 1, 2? I think I might have to do it that way around. And I'm also going to Control C whenever I press. Oh, no. Yeah, you see, this is how these things happen. This is all right. This is update. Oh no, that's right. So update the bullet. This is draw. This is where I want to put this in. Okay. So that's not giving me anything when I press those buttons. Oh, hang on. If btn 4, then add new bullet. And although I'm not sure, it should have been adding bullets all the time, left, right, and center. So that's a little bit worrying. Let's try again. Nope, still nothing running there. So that's not working. Draw bullet, be update. Put in here. Let's make this the length of bullets. Attempt to get length of global bullets and nil value. Oh yeah, because it doesn't exist yet. So let's just put in here bullets colon like this. So that is the wrong way around, right? So Control X, Control V, so it is like this. I can never remember with print which way round it runs. And now I will try and get the length of bullets. Still doesn't want it. Why not? Oh, because there's an unexpected bracket, comma at the end. Attempt to get length of global bullets and nil value. Because I haven't declared the value. Okay, so I wrote this lovely little function up here, init objects, and then it stressed you the utter importance of init objects, and then didn't run init objects. Whee, there we go. There are our bullets. Okay, now that could be a useful, yeah, that could be a useful type of bullet. Maybe for later. First of all, the first thing to say is I think they're too wide. So I am going to go into my function down here and I'm going to change the radius to 1. Oh yeah, well, maybe. We'll see what they're like. It could be, if we don't like that, we draw a sprite instead. The next thing to say is that they're coming off the wrong location. If you look at where they're coming off, if I run it again, they're coming off, obviously I said X and Y. The Y is fine, but the X is wrong. We need to be creating them. Where are we? Sorry. When we press the button here, we need to add 4 to that. Let's try that. That's a bit better. Add 3. Okay. And I think I am going to draw a sprite. So the bullet is going to be like that. Okay, so that's going to be my bullet sprite, which is number 7, and in my code we're not going to have circfill anymore. We're going to have SPR 7 at x, sorry, self.x comma self.y. So I'm going to draw a sprite instead. Let's try that. Okay, so now the y has to be y plus y minus 6 or thereabouts. The X is fine, but the Y is wrong now. Hooray, look at that. Okay, there are some bullets. Now, there's something to be said here, that these bullets come too fast. It would be a very easy game, I think, if these bullets were the ones you shot, because, well, you can see that it's just like a constant stream of them. Okay, so let us instead create a variable up here. This is to do with shoot. Next one there. This is to do with shooting, and it's going to be something like refire. Okay, which is going to refire max, which is going to equal, let's say, 5. What I'm doing here is I'm setting up a variable that you can't shoot again until the gun has sort of recharged. So refire equals refire max. Okay, and refire is the one that's going to change. So every update cycle, we say refire minus equals 1. All right, and so then refire reduces. If refire is less than 0, then refire equals 0. That's just to stop it counting forever if it happened to work. And down here, when you want to shoot, if it's button 4 and refire is 0. Okay, and if that's the case, then you set refire back to refire max. So now I've got my finger still on the button, but you can see I've got a much slower set of bullets. Okay, so that's a little bit more useful, I think. I think also let us go into here. Whoops, where am I? Here, sorry. And let's see if we can create some sort of sound effect for these bullets. So what sort of sound effect can we have? A bit higher maybe. Well, let's try that. So that's sound effect 1. Okay, sorry, it's sound effect 0. Here it is. So when we fire a bullet, SFX 0. There we go. That's quite nice. I quite like that. Brilliant. So there we have it. That's how to get some bullets shooting, complete with section in the middle where I just had to debug some sort of idiocy on my own part. But hopefully even actually the debugging is useful, because that is the process you sometimes have to go through in these things to get us with a rather nice little shooting effect. So next time we will probably look at just making sure that function is completely applicable to all sorts of different weapons. Maybe use palette switching for different color lasers and so forth, and changing our refire rate, and then probably bringing in some sort of enemies, which will mean collision detection as well. Looking at it now, I think the length of time for these bullets probably needs to be enough to get to the top of the screen. So that's something we can change straight away. Let's just make the life 30. If the speed is, what was I setting for the speed? The speed was -3, so 3 times 30 is 90. Let's try that. That's better. There we go. Okay, so there we are. Save it. Okay, and next time we will look at maybe improving that function slightly, and then also bringing in some bad guys. Happy programming.